everybody. Thanks for coming this morning, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Mon, and everyone that's hosting Morning Cups in Mankato. I'm Steve Scully, and I founded this company called Thaddeus Medical Systems when I was finishing up at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and basically saw or learned about some issues with temperature control and tracking for specimens that were coming from the patient bedside down to the lab, and if they weren't kept at specific temperatures, then you could potentially run those samples, get the wrong result with bad data from bad proteins, and potentially misdiagnose somebody. So because medical errors are the third biggest cause of death in the U.S., this seemed like a really great opportunity to try and do something from an entrepreneurial perspective. And so basically filed some IP initially with Mayo Clinic, and then started the company with some funding from Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. Other things besides proteins, potassium and glucose levels can go in different directions depending on temperature. And so it causes, ultimately, the clinical pathologist a lot of problems, a lot of stress, trying to figure out if this is a real or a spurious value, and trying to best manage the patient in the limited time they have. Also, from the therapeutic perspective, not a clinical specimen perspective, but from the giving therapeutics to patients, either from a vaccine perspective or for biological therapies that are being sent throughout the cold supply chain. You know, it's an issue for temperature control and tracking, is an issue for trying to keep these things potent and effective. So on a more kind of granular or quantifiable scale, like $35 billion from a financial point is being wasted every year annually because of ineffective packaging. That's globally. So that's lost revenue on an annual basis because of ineffective packaging. And so what we're doing is we're making a smart medical cooler that can ultimately be shipped in the retail supply chain. It's basically a refrigerator and a suitcase that's connected to the internet, so that you've got tracking, real-time tracking and alerts. You've got really good temperature control throughout the journey with minimal deviation. And if there is deviation from that temperature, those parameters, you're going to get an alert either to any authorized user or the courier. And then we're trying to automate the workflow as well, so that any kind of temperature information is also available in the medical record or very transparent to other individuals that need to know. So this is just a screenshot of what it looks like on the inside. So this is where you put the therapeutics or the specimens, and then pretty basic interface with on-off. And it's set right now for 4 degrees Celsius, so just for refrigeration temperatures. We've got an awesome team. I've got over a decade of lab experience. Russ Sanders is actually a Mankato State alum and is a master inventor was at Thermo King, and just recently is ramping up with us. Chris Lehman is our VP of Finance, and Paul Cern is our VP of Marketing, and they both bring a lot of great skills and experience to the team. We've got a really awesome board of advisors too that I've assembled over the last couple of years. Everything from startups to healthcare, pathology, FDA regulations, engineering, everything, logistics. We've got it on the board of advisors because I don't know much about anything outside of medicine and biology and pathology. The market, as you can appreciate, is very big. The potential market is, right now, the total available market is $30 billion. If you look at just the packaging and the monitoring components for shipping in the cold chain, just for therapeutics, and it's growing rapidly, so it'll triple that market will triple in the next 6 to 7 years. If we look at just the US and Canada, that's about 60% of the available market, and our target market is about $4 billion. And so the product roadmap, we're starting with the cooler this year. We're rolling out smart foam for IoT solutions and other things that are fragile that are being sent. And then the smart sleeve we're working with the University of Minnesota to develop, which will ultimately work in conjunction with the cooler. That's this item right here that's going to kind of give you the tracking and control of temperature for individual things that are like the individual specimen vial or tube or therapeutic ampule. And then other markets, we're starting initially with pharmacies and hospitals, and then after that getting into the retail supply chain with FedEx and UPS, and then if it makes sense to do drones as well down the road. And then the technology we're exploring is machine learning especially for trying to predict any failures that are going to happen to the units while they're in the field, so that an actual failure of the unit doesn't happen in the field, and pull those units out of circulation while they're before a problem arises. And then blockchain, just trying to utilize distributed ledger for diverse types of documents for the medical record. The revenue model is we're selling the units initially to hospitals and pharmacies and couriers. We'll also get some recurring revenue for the data. Then perhaps after that's been established, we'll roll out a leasing model for use in the retail supply chain. For competition-wise, the three most kind of relevant competitors are the iBox, the Mellon box, and C-Safe has a big military cooler, but it's about 150 pounds, so it's not very practical for the retail supply chain. No one's doing a unit that's durable, lightweight, reusable. It's got real-time alerts and is automating the workflow. Our projections have us doing well in the next 4 years, being profitable in 2021, selling 1,000 units by the end of the year, this year. And our competitive advantage is that we've got a lot of patents that have been approved and also that are in progress or provisional. And that's it.